When the avalanche hit, both my sister and my fiancé were in danger. I chose to rescue my fiancé first, but my sister suffered severe frostbite and later had to undergo amputation to survive. Unable to accept reality, she took her own life with poison. My fiancé said nothing, but on our wedding night, he locked me in a freezer set to dozens of degrees below zero. I frantically pounded on the door, begging him to let me out. His face darkened as he said coldly, "I've endured for so long, and now I can finally let you taste the pain she suffered." In the end, my limbs froze and snapped, leading to my miserable death. Reborn into this life, all my love for him has turned to hatred. Doesn't he just want me to save my sister? Then I'll grant him his wish. My fiancé Sean, my sister Quinn, and I were driving to a ski resort for vacation. Ignoring my warnings, the two of them headed straight for the undeveloped backcountry in pursuit of thrills. Who knew they'd trigger an avalanche? When I opened my eyes again, I found myself standing in the ruins after the avalanche. A bitter wind whipped ice crystals against my cheeks. Not far away, Sean was half-trapped in a crevasse, his lower body submerged in freezing water. His hair was crusted with ice, his face as pale as a ghost. Seeing me, his eyes turned icy cold. "What are you waiting for?" Gritting his teeth, his voice hoarse yet commanding, "Save Quinn first. She can't be hurt." I looked toward Quinn. A massive block of ice from the avalanche had crushed her lower body, staining the surrounding snow red with blood. Quinn's broken sobs echoed, "Help me, I don't want to die." Hearing this, Sean's expression filled with heartache as he desperately comforted, "Quinn, don't be afraid, I won't let anything happen to you." Then he glared at me and roared, "Are you deaf? Hurry up and save her." I stood knee-deep in snow, staring at Sean's familiar face. In my past life, it was with those same sinister eyes that he locked me in the freezer on our wedding night. Facing my pleas, his expression turned icy as he said, "Quinn is dead. How dare you think you'd get away unscathed? I've endured this long just to make you taste the suffering she went through." That was when I suddenly realized that he was in love with Quinn. All along, he and Quinn had been having an unclear relationship behind my back. Suppressing the hatred in my heart, I pretended to hesitate. "Then what about you?" Sean's expression instantly twisted, "Nina, if anything happens to Quinn's leg, I'll make you regret it forever." I sneered inwardly. Sure enough, Sean had also been reborn. He already knew Quinn's leg would be injured, which was why he was so desperate for me to save her. "How could I let you off so easily in this life?" Due to the blizzard, the rescue helicopter couldn't arrive quickly. So they could only rush here while keeping in touch with me. I provided them with detailed information about both individuals. After assessing the situation, they said, "A person can survive at most 30 minutes in icy water before succumbing to hypothermia. Although the woman is pinned down, her blood flow is slowed, so at least it's not immediately life-threatening. We recommend rescuing the man first." Quinn's face instantly turned deathly pale. No. I'm clearly more seriously injured, I can't feel my legs at all." Sean also frowned. "I told you I can hold on, saving Quinn is more urgent." After speaking, he looked intently in Quinn's direction and reassured, "Don't be afraid, both of us will be fine." He thought his selflessness would move the other person. Who knew Quinn would immediately latch onto her words, "Hear that? He said he can hold on. Nina, stop hesitating, save me first." Sean's expression froze momentarily before quickly returning to normal. I wiped away non-existent tears, pretending to be torn, but Sean's in real danger, he's soaking in freezing water. Any longer and he'll die from hypothermia. He's a man. Quinn suddenly roared, his snow-flecked face twisted like a demon's. "What's a little cold water? If my leg's ruined, my life is over. Sean, say something." I stood still, catching a glimpse of Sean's trembling pale lips from the corner of my eye. He stared at Quinn in disbelief, the hurt in his gaze unmistakable. "Quinn, you don't care whether I live or die at all?" Quinn froze for a moment, then averted his gaze with visible guilt. "I just thought you could hold on better than I could." The light in Sean's eyes dimmed bit by bit. After a long silence, his voice came out hoarse, as if he'd swallowed shards of ice. Do as Quinn said. Seeing that further delay would arouse suspicion, I nodded and took out my tools to begin rescuing Quinn. I took out a chisel and gradually chipped away at the massive ice block pinning Quinn down. Quinn endured the excruciating pain, whimpering and groaning. On the other side, Sean's situation was even more dire. He had been trapped in the ice crevice for nearly 20 minutes, the freezing water having drained most of his body heat. His body was growing colder by the minute, his lips turning a dark purplish blue. How much longer? He asked weakly. I looked at him with remorse. The rescue team hasn't arrived yet. I'm doing everything I can to save Quinn now. I couldn't tell whether he'd fainted or was just silent. After a long while, he finally spoke. Nina, I really can't hold on much longer. Sean's hair had frozen into icy clumps, his skin turning blue and purple from the cold. His eyes had lost their focus, making him look like a living corpse. I feigned concern. Sean, are you okay? Maybe I should pull you out first. Quinn, who had been whimpering moments ago, immediately panicked at the suggestion. No. I frowned, but you can see for yourself, Sean is really close to dying. Quinn shot him a glance, gritted his teeth, and said, I doubt he'll make it. Better get me out first, one survivor is better than none. In the face of disaster, Quinn's inherently selfish and cruel nature was no longer concealed. Sean's unfocused gaze suddenly sharpened, his eyes firmly locked on Quinn, filled with fury and bewilderment. Why would you? His voice trembled with a hint of despair. I sneered inwardly. Falling for someone so inherently selfish is truly pitiable. Sean, are you satisfied with this outcome? Quinn was a student my parents sponsored. Because she was too young when her parents died, my parents, feeling sorry for her, directly adopted her. However, she was far from virtuous, never putting effort into her studies but rather focusing on indulging in material pleasures and entertainment. She viewed my family as a stepping stone, with the ultimate goal of marrying into wealth and becoming a rich man's wife. The Sean family had vast wealth and influence, and being longtime family friends with us, Sean naturally became her ideal target. Thus, she attempted to seduce him with her looks. I had always looked down on such behavior. These awkward and crude tactics even prompted Sean to mock her to me more than once, saying, this sister your family adopted is truly something else. But as Quinn persisted, enduring endless humiliation yet refusing to give up, even growing more determined with each setback, Sean's attitude toward her subtly began to shift. By the end, when Quinn was mentioned again, his expression had softened considerably. She's clearly an idiot, with clumsy methods at best. Who knows what she's so stubborn about? He thought there was a girl who could cast aside her pride just for love of him. But little did he know, Quinn had no pride to begin with. What she clung to was always money and power. The snowstorm still raged chaotically. I opened the first aid kit, pulled out a heating blanket, and deliberately let my voice tremble with tears. Sean, hold on, I'm throwing the heated blanket to you now. Give it to me. Quinn suddenly jerked up like a dying fish, her nails digging deep into the ice. My wound is freezing over, give me the heated blanket. Frost fell from Sean's eyelashes in clumps as he moved sluggishly. More streaks of blood seeped from his waist trapped in the ice crevice, spreading faint crimson ripples in the frozen water. Quinn. Each word he spoke was punctuated by coughs of ice shards. Did you ever, truly? Shut up. Quinn, terrified that I might discover their affair, frantically interrupted him. What nonsense are you spouting? If you want to die, go ahead, just don't drag me into it. A deep disappointment flashed in Sean's eyes. Slowly, he closed them, letting tears stream down his face. He had always been proud and self-assured, but now, his sincere devotion was trampled under Quinn's feet. He couldn't accept it. Yet, he had no strength left. After another 10 minutes or so, the rescue team's helicopter finally arrived. The moment the crew disembarked, they immediately began the rescue operation with professional equipment. Both were swiftly pulled to safety and rushed to the hospital. In this lifetime, due to my deliberate delay, Quinn avoided amputation but would need crutches for the rest of his life. Unable to accept her disability and disfigured legs, she made endless scenes in despair. As for Sean, prolonged hypothermia led to multiple organ failure. He was repeatedly resuscitated and only survived after numerous organ replacements. Yet he could never function as a man again, forced to rely on a pacemaker and regular muscle rehabilitation to sustain basic bodily functions for the remainder of his days. For a favored child of heaven, such a blow is more painful than death. In the hospital room, Sean's parents wept uncontrollably. After waking up, Sean remained silent, his vacant gaze fixed on the ceiling. When my parents arrived, they inquired about Sean's condition before pulling me outside. Mom asked, "Nina, the rescue team said Sean was in more critical condition at the time. Why did you save Quinn first? And didn't you always dislike her?" Clearly, my parents were quite puzzled that I had chosen to save Quinn first. I let out a cold laugh. This was Sean's demand. He values Quinn more than himself, what else could I have done? Hearing this, my parents seemed to grasp part of the situation, their expression stiffening. "Nina, don't be upset. You and Sean grew up together, there must be some misunderstanding," Mom quickly comforted me, as if worried I might be hurt. I smiled and said, "Mom, Dad, you know how Sean is now. He's completely useless, and his heart belongs to someone else. I certainly don't want a man like that." "Good," Dad nodded in approval. "That's my daughter. In that case, we'll go to Sean's house in a few days to cancel this engagement. We can't let our daughter suffer in vain." Looking at my parents before me, my heart ached with sorrow. In my past life, Sean had taken revenge on me and didn't spare my family either. After my death, he used business warfare to collapse my parents' corporation. Before they could even recover from the shock of my death, they were thrown into another massive crisis. Overwhelmed by grief and indignation, they took their own lives together. In this life, I will never let such a tragedy happen again. Afterward, I told my parents all the despicable things Quinn had done over the years. Including stealing money, bullying others in the university under my family's name, his chaotic personal life, and even his grades, all achieved through cheating. While gathering evidence, I even discovered that Quinn had been tampering with my parents' medication. Because she believed that as long as my parents stood by my side, her dream of marrying into wealth would never come true. Upon hearing this, my parents flew into a rage and immediately cut ties with Quinn. Quinn, who had just returned from the hospital, was completely stunned when she learned what had happened. She knelt on the floor, sobbing, begging my parents for a chance to change and promising to turn over a new leaf. Yet, my parents remained cold and indifferent. Mom threw the medicine bottle at her and shouted angrily, "We took you in out of kindness, never expecting to raise such an ungrateful wretch. Get out. Our family will never accept you again." Quinn was crying her heart out, and her parents were so annoyed that they left directly. The housekeeper was about to drag her away when she suddenly looked at me with a vicious glare. "How did Mom and Dad find out about these things? Did you snitch on me?" I looked at her coldly. "Dare to do it but not own up to it? I could let the past slide, but since you dared to harm our parents, I won't let you off easily." Quinn glared at me with gritted teeth and screamed, "Just you wait, I'll take back everything that belongs to me." After that, she actually ran straight to Sean's house. You should know, it was entirely her idea for Sean to go skiing in that undeveloped area in the first place. Moreover, during the disaster, Quinn's series of selfish actions were basically all known to Sean's parents. They loathed her to the core and outright refused to let her see Sean. Yet Quinn didn't care about their opinion. She just knelt right outside their door, confessing her love to Sean. Silver-tongued as ever, she poured out her affection while trying to explain away her improper behavior during the crisis. Quinn wept bitterly, "Sean, at that time I thought I was about to die, that's why I said those harsh words to you. I just hoped that after my death, you could forget me and live on happily. You asked if I still had feelings for you, now I tell you, my love for you has never diminished by even a fraction. Had you died then, I would never have lived on alone." She spoke each word with touching sincerity, disregarding the scornful gazes of his household staff. Shamelessly kneeling, she truly softened Sean's heart. Months later, when I saw Quinn again, she had completely transformed. Dressed head to toe in luxury brands, she clung to Sean's arm and looked at me with triumphant eyes. Sean gave me a cold glance and said bluntly, "Nina, the engagement is off. The only one I'll marry is Quinn." After speaking, he no longer looked at me, as if already impatient with the crying tantrum he expected would follow. Yet I remained perfectly calm. "All right." Sean looked up in surprise, not expecting me to agree so readily. "You, agreed?" He took a deep breath. "Don't you have anything to say?" Sean's expression was complicated, his gaze fixed intently on me as if searching for some trace of revelation in my face. I just chuckled softly. "What's there to say? Even if you hadn't brought it up, I was going to call off the engagement anyway." Quinn gritted her teeth and scoffed coldly, "Keep pretending then. Don't start wailing your heart out once we're gone." No one believed that I could let go of Sean so easily after loving him for so many years. I scoffed, "Why should I cry? Is a worthless man worth my tears? If you want him, take him." My words successfully enraged them both. Sean's face darkened to the extreme. Quinn, on the other hand, was furious. "Keep pretending then. I'll see how long you can keep this up." Afterward, Sean insisted on marrying Quinn despite his parents' objections, even resorting to threats of refusing treatment and going on a hunger strike. His furious father fled abroad. His mother, heartbroken for her son, had no choice but to relent, though she still thoroughly disliked Quinn. Not long after, the two smoothly obtained their marriage certificate and held a lavish engagement banquet. In the photos, Quinn beamed with joy, while Sean's typically icy expression melted into a radiant smile. Many people in our social circle were quite shocked and messaged me to ask what had happened. There were also plenty who took pleasure in my misfortune, waiting to see me make a fool of myself. I paid no attention to any of them and simply carried on with my life. Because I knew that Quinn was inherently promiscuous, she had several regular and casual male companions outside, while Sean had already lost that particular capability. He couldn't satisfy Quinn, and Quinn would never lower her standards for herself. All I had to do was sit back and wait for the show to begin. After that, Quinn frequently posted photos of her outings with Sean on social media. She also flaunted plenty of expensive jewelry, high-end luxury items, and exquisite custom-made clothing, drawing envy from many. This greatly satisfied her vanity. Seeing that I hadn't reacted for a long time, Quinn even sent me a private message. Her tone was full of smugness. "Nina, you've never even seen these things before, have you? Sean gave them all to me, and he said he'll only love me in this lifetime." After waiting for a long time and seeing no response from me, Quinn was the first to lose her patience and continued to taunt. "You've always been one step ahead of me since childhood, never imagined you'd be surpassed by me now, did you? Even the man you love most has fallen at my feet, what right do you have left to compete with me?" She grew increasingly smug as she spoke. But I scoffed and replied, "Stop pretending. Sean's mom doesn't think much of you, so life hasn't been easy, has it?" Sean's parents had always been decisive in their actions. Though his mother reluctantly compromised on the marriage out of love for her son, that didn't mean Quinn could comfortably settle into being a wealthy wife. The company's assets, family influence, and decision-making power still rested firmly in the hands of Sean's parents. With countless subtle, tormenting methods at her disposal, Quinn wouldn't last long against her mother-in-law's tactics. Sure enough, my words hit the mark. Silence lingered on the other end. The chat box showed typing over a dozen times before finally delivering a voice message. "Nonsense. His mother has always been good to me. You're just jealous." Quinn's voice trembled with anger, clearly embarrassed and defensive. I let out a cold laugh and turned off my phone. Not long after, rumors began circulating within our circles. Whether out of pent-up frustration or simply unable to suppress her true nature, Quinn started frequenting bars, KTVs, and other entertainment venues again. At first, she was cautious, but gradually she became reckless, squandering money, drowning herself in alcohol, and indulging in revelry with a crowd of sycophantic friends who flattered her every whim. After all, Sean was physically challenged. Though Sean's mother could discipline her, she was preoccupied with work, constantly traveling between domestic and international trips, making it difficult to keep an eye on her. Until one time, Quinn got drunk and, incited by friends, ended up in a physical fight with someone. The crude and ferocious violence was caught on camera by onlookers and made the news the very next day. The headline read, "Wealthy socialite indulges in nightclub revelry, drunken brawl exposes disgraceful behavior." As public opinion rapidly escalated, girls who had previously been bullied by Quinn came forward one after another to denounce her, exposing her misdeeds. Naturally, Quinn was met with fierce criticism, and the reputation of Sean's family also took a hit as a result. The stock of Sean's family's corporation fluctuated sharply, resulting in significant losses, and his parents were so angry they nearly fainted. Shortly after, they hastily held a press conference to clarify the situation and spent a considerable amount of money to suppress the scandal. However, as one might expect, Quinn's life became even more difficult. According to people in the know, Sean's parents restricted Quinn's social interactions and freedom, requiring her to report everything she did in advance. They also controlled Quinn's spending, with every single expense having to be verified by designated personnel. Afraid of further embarrassment, their controlling behavior towards Quinn grew increasingly severe. Even the slightest deviation from their rules would result in her being disciplined according to family law. She had thought marrying into a wealthy family would bring carefree comfort. Never did she expect this luxurious life to become a gilded cage imprisoning her. Under extreme pressure, the conflict between Quinn and Sean erupted. Quinn accused Sean of being unable to protect her, calling him useless. Naturally, Sean felt both heartbroken and wronged. Back then, he had nearly severed ties with his family just to marry Quinn. After their engagement, he had exhausted everything to satisfy her material desires. Even when they were in danger during that snowstorm incident, he chose to forgive her without holding a grudge, only to be met with Quinn's endless accusations. However, most of this information was also hearsay from people in their circle. My best friend gossiped, "Who do you think will reach their breaking point first between those two?" I shook my head and sneered, "All I know is Quinn has definitely had enough." Sure enough, 2 months later, earth-shattering news took over the trending searches. Quinn ran away. Not only did she push Sean's mother down the stairs, leaving her in a vegetative state, but she also fled with more than half of their family's wealth. The news spread like wildfire, with media outlets competing to report it. It was said that despite all the precautions the Sean family had taken, they couldn't prevent her from cheating. Quinn's affair was discovered, and Sean, utterly heartbroken, decided to call off their engagement. During the heated argument, Quinn, pushed to her limit, shoved her mother-in-law down the stairs. Sean, confined to his wheelchair, watched helplessly as his mother tumbled down the steps, blood splattering everywhere. He desperately tried to rush to the staircase but missed his mark, crashing heavily onto the floor. Amidst the chaos, Quinn didn't give up on their family's assets. Instead, he immediately went to the study, took away all the shares and property deeds, and quickly sold them off at low prices. The Sean family was still in complete disarray when they finally came to their senses, only to find that most of their assets had already been sold off, and Quinn had vanished without a trace after absconding with the money. The company's cash flow ran into problems, shareholders withdrew their investments one after another, and the Sean family teetered on the brink of bankruptcy. Upon learning of this, Sean's father suffered a cerebral hemorrhage and was rushed to the hospital. All that remained of their family was a nearly broken Sean, struggling to hold things together. Now that the building is about to collapse, all those who once fawned over them have rejected Sean's requests. In the end, he had no choice but to swallow his pride and call me. "Nina." His voice choked up the moment the call connected, and only the piercing alarm of a monitor pierced through the receiver. I responded indifferently, "Did you dial the wrong number?" There was a long silence on the other end before he finally spoke, "I know you hate me, but for the sake of our over 10 years. I cut him off. Over a decade of feelings couldn't withstand Quinn's seduction. What right do you have to bring up the past with me? Sean suddenly started coughing violently, his voice filled with remorse. I was foolish, mistaking a fisheye for a pearl. How could I have ever believed she truly loved me? Quinn was only after my money. His voice was thick with sobs. I really regret it. If I hadn't betrayed you, we could have been so happy. I had no patience for his lamentations and rolled my eyes. If you just called to whine, sorry, I'm not interested. I'm hanging up. Nina. I'm begging you. He grew increasingly anxious. Just $5 billion for emergency funds. I can definitely save the company. Once everything stabilizes, we'll get back together, and I promise you a grand wedding. What a brilliant scheme. I sneered coldly. Sean, you really overestimate yourself, don't you? Do you honestly think I'd still be willing to pick up trash like you at this point? Nina. Must you be so aggressive? His voice was laced with unmistakable fury. We've shared over a decade of feelings. I don't believe you can just walk away that easily. Besides, I've already apologized. What more do you want? Keep acting up, and I'll leave you for good. Listening to his self-righteous threats, I laughed in sheer anger. Sean, was I not clear enough? I wouldn't take trash like you even if you were free. You think too highly of yourself. I stopped loving you long ago, just hearing your voice disgusts me. Don't call me again in the future, I won't give you a single cent. Sean was utterly stunned. You don't love me? How could you not love me? He seemed to suddenly wake up to reality, mumbling incessantly. You clearly said you loved me the most, how could you just stop loving me like that? Listening to his murmuring, I suddenly felt a pang of sorrow in my heart. Indeed, no one understood my feelings for him better than he did. Yet even so, he chose to betray me and be with Quinn, completely disregarding my emotions. My suffering, it seemed, had become something for him to boast about. What right did such a person have to receive my love? I cut him off, speaking coldly. Rather than clinging to me, you'd better hurry and find Quinn before she runs off. Don't delude yourself into thinking I'll contribute even a penny. I wasn't being kind, I simply couldn't bear to watch Quinn get off scot-free. My ultimate goal was to see them both destroyed. With that, I hung up the phone. It didn't take long before Sean's family corporation collapsed and declared bankruptcy. Sean's father, heartbroken and hopeless, removed his oxygen mask while the medical staff was away, and passed away. His mother remained unconscious. Overwhelmed with grief, the only thing keeping Sean alive was his burning desire to find Quinn and make her pay. Finally, after an exhaustive search, he caught Quinn in a casino. Sean tried to recover the embezzled funds to revive the conglomerate. Who would have thought that in just 1 year, Quinn had nearly gambled away the entire massive sum? The police arrested Quinn on charges of intentional assault and grand theft. It's said that Sean was extremely emotional at the time. He broke down, demanding to know why she could be so heartless, even wishing he could tear Quinn apart on the spot. Realizing that he couldn't escape punishment, Quinn simply gave up all restraint and stopped hiding his true nature. Every venomous word poured out of his mouth. He cursed them, saying they deserved to go bankrupt, that his parents had brought it upon themselves and deserved to die. He even called Sean a stupid, spineless loser, a worthless cripple who could only survive with machines. If it weren't for the money, she would never have wasted her life on a cripple. Hearing these words, it's easy to imagine that Sean was completely crushed. If he hadn't risked everything to save Quinn back then, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Yet, the scars left by his sacrifice became the very thing she despised and used against him. In the courtroom. Upon learning that the death penalty could not be imposed on the other party, Sean could no longer suppress the hatred in his heart. Right in front of everyone, he rushed toward the defendant's stand and stabbed Quinn in the heart with a knife. Before anyone could react, Quinn collapsed in a pool of blood. The police quickly restrained Sean and rushed Quinn to the hospital. However, due to excessive blood loss, Quinn was pronounced dead before reaching the hospital. In the end, Sean was sentenced to life imprisonment, destined to spend the rest of his days behind bars. In the prison visitation room, Sean sat on the other side of the glass. His face was haggard, his eyes hollow. His hands were cuffed, and he seemed to have lost all vitality. All traces of former pride and confidence had vanished, replaced by profound exhaustion and remorse. I sat across from him, separated by cold glass, watching him quietly. He wouldn't raise his head, as if afraid to meet my gaze. "Nina." He finally spoke after a long silence. His voice came out hoarse and low, as if forced from the depths of his throat. I didn't respond, simply stared at him with icy detachment. You came." He lifted his head, a flicker of complicated emotions flashing through his eyes, regret, pain, and also expectation. "I came just to see what you look like now," I said flatly, my tone devoid of any fluctuation. A trace of pain flashed in Sean's eyes as he lowered his head, his voice trembling. I know you hate me. I hate myself too. How could I have become like this? How could I have reached this point?" I didn't speak, just watched him quietly. His remorse meant nothing to me anymore. "Nina, I truly regret it." His voice quivered with tears streaming down his cheeks. If only I hadn't been bewitched by Quinn back then, we wouldn't have ended up like this. "Sean," I interrupted him, my tone icy, "there are no ifs in this world. You made your choice, and I've long since let go of the past." He lifted his head, eyes filled with agony and despair. "Do you really not love me anymore?" I let out a cold laugh. "Love? Sean, you betrayed me, harmed me, didn't even spare my parents, and now you want me to love you?" My words sent violent tremors through his body. Sean stared in disbelief, his eyes wide. You've also been reborn?" "That's right." I curled my lips in disdain. "What, surprised?" As if recalling what he had done to me, Sean's body suddenly shuddered. He raised his head, tears welling in his eyes. "Nina. I really know I was wrong. Could you give me one more chance?" I looked at him with disdain and said meaningfully, "Sean, your life is already ruined, while mine is just beginning." He fell silent, tears streaming silently down his face. He knew he had completely lost me, and everything he once had. I stood up and stared at him coldly. "This is the last time I'll see you. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Spend the rest of your life in prison reflecting on what you've done." After speaking, I turned and walked away without a shred of hesitation. "Nina," he called out behind me, his voice thick with despair and pleading. I didn't look back, nor did I stop in my tracks. I knew that from this moment on, my life and Sean's would never intersect again. Stepping out of the prison gates, sunlight bathes my face, warm and bright. I take a deep breath, as if shedding a burden carried for years. The grievances and entanglements of the past have finally come to an end at this moment. As for me, a brand new life awaits.